What is up, Packer fans? Welcome to week 9 of the NFL. Packers are going on the road to play the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. The Packers have fallen to 3-5, and the Detroit Lions are 1-6. Kind of a surprise to me. I thought they'd be better this year, but it's the same old Lions. However, they have been putting up a lot of points. They had the number one offense in the NFL for a number of weeks leading up until about 2 weeks ago, I think. But they're still like fourth in total offense. They score 35 points per game at Ford Field at home. They average about 24 and a half, 25 points a game overall. And the Packers are only at about 18.3 points per game. They, the yards, the Lions are about 394, the Packers 331, points given up. Lions are at about 32 points per game given up. The Packers only about 21. And then yards, 421 given up a game for the Lions and only about 308 for the Packers. The Packers still have that number one pass defense, especially after last week, holding Josh Allen to only 205 yards passing, just over 50% completion percentage. Intercepted them twice, but two touchdowns early in the first half, and it just was too much for the Packers to overcome. The Packers do have 9 forced turnovers to 11, the Packers have 9 total turnovers on offense to 11 on Detroit. Both don't, force that many on the defensive side of the ball. The Lions really have struggled on defense. They're basically just getting gashed for huge point scores and a lot of yards every single week. But the Packers do have a little bit in their favor. Obviously, the record's better, and the Packers have won 2 out of the last 3 games in Detroit. Green Bay also has scored 30 points in the last 4 matchups against the Lions, and the Packers swept 2 of the last 3 seasons against the Lions, and 11 times in the last 18 years, the Packers have swept the Lions, both games at home and away. So a lot going for the Packers in this one. Green Bay, 32-12 overall against the Lions since 2000, and that's great. But the Lions, their offense has been so good. They still have Jared Goff in at quarterback, but they did just trade their best player, basically their best player, TJ Hockenson. He was drafted number 8 overall in 2019, and they traded him to the Vikings. Don't ask me why. Why would you trade him in the division, your best player in the division, especially because now you're going to have to play him about 8 more years. So I don't understand it, and the only thing for the Packers, though, at least we don't have to deal with him this week. However, the Lions still have plenty of offense. DeAndre Swift, he's been a great running back for them. He's really a solid back. His issue, though, is injuries. Can he stay healthy? He missed last week against against the Dolphins, and the Cowboys. He was back against the Dolphins. He missed the Cowboy game. And so Jamal Williams took over his spot. He's had a great year. He's got like 8 touchdowns already. And, they still have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I really like, Equanimeous St. Brown's brother, an ex-Packer who now is with the Bears. But the Lions still have, Josh Reynolds, who played for the Rams, Khalif Raymond, who's a really good slot receiver. Amon-Ra is a really good slot receiver too. But I'm hoping that our defense can match up with those guys. Can Jair shut down Amon-Ra? And can Stokes and Douglas get after Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond? When you say those names, you're like, well, who are those guys? They're not going to be anybody that should really dominate the Packers, but the offense has been great this year for the Lions, and they expect to be great on Sunday. The big thing, though, is Swift did not practice today, and either did their offensive tackle Sewell. He did not practice either. So some things leaning in the Packers' favor, and for the Packers, they should be getting Elkin Jenkins back, who was just a late game. He just got pulled late from the game against the Bills. Somebody stepped on his foot in practice during the week. They thought he'd be able to go, but it flared up right before the game started, and he wasn't. He was a late, subtraction from the lineup. So we'll see what happens with him, but he should be good to go. Alan Lazard should be good to go, and DeAndre Campbell. LaFleur wasn't super clear on what his status is. I think it'll be more of a game time decision. He hurt his knee late or like midway through the Bills game. It was Sunday night, and we do play at noon, so it's like the shortest turnaround besides a Monday night game that you can have. We will see if he'll be back. He hasn't missed a snap all season except for the end of that Bills game. So we'll see. Something to watch for. And if he can't go, Isaiah McDuffie will play, and Quay Walker should have the green dot for the first time. But we'll see what they decide to do on the defensive side when it comes to Isaiah McDuffie. If Campbell can't go, maybe they'll play a little bit more dime. Rudy Ford down there. We'll see what they decide to do. But the Lions defense has been horrible. It's just been awful. They've got gashed for big plays, lots of yards. Both run defenses are terrible. So both teams will be looking to run the ball. That's why if Swift can't go, it's going to be all on Williams. And Packer fans know, Packer players know about Williams. He was a Packer for his first, I think, 4 years of his career. We decided to stick with Aaron Jones and then draft A.J. Dillon, so Williams was expendable. But the Lions still have first-round pick. He was the second pick in the draft, Aiden Hutchinson. He has a 3-sack game. I'm not sure how many he has total this year, but he is definitely a force on the edge. And then Jeff Okudah, their best cover corner. He's a really good player. But besides those two guys, the Lions really don't have much on defense to speak of. Their middle linebacker is pretty good too, but otherwise, they just don't have anything really on the back end. And the Packers will look to run the ball a lot against them and hopefully get some downfield shots. In order to win on Sunday, the Packers, they can't make the big mistake. They need to be able to figure out how to stop the run, something they haven't been able to do all season. And now it's coming down to what can they do in the pass game. If they get Lazard back, they should get Cobb back next week, but the play of Dobbs against the Bills, the play of Samori Toure against the Bills, Watkins was pretty much a no-go, or a no-show. He played, but he was, one catch. So Packers definitely need to figure out how to get their pass game going, especially if they can run the ball like they did against the Bills. The Bills' #1 rush defense, and the Packers gashed them for 208 yards. To me, that's the formula for winning for this team. LaFleur and Rodgers didn't really seem so confident in this newfound, identity. They're more so like, well, we just have to take what the other team gives us. Packers, you have to figure out your identity and just run the football. That's who you are. You don't have Devontae. You don't have MVS. You don't have, the pass game that you used to. You don't have Jordy. You don't have James Jones. You don't have Jennings. I was talking about that Super Bowl team, and it's like, wow, look at those guys they had. Even with Jermichael Finley getting hurt that year, they were still so stacked. And now, they're running out rookies. That they have got Amari Rodgers, running the X, and it's just, he made a really nice catch, but Packers just are not set up to be a big-time passing team. And even though Lions give up a lot through the air, I still think the Packers should be running the football. Against the Bills, the Packers won every major category. Time of possession, first downs, rush yards, total yards, the turnover battle. Pretty much everything that you want except for points and the penalties. Penalties took a touchdown off the board when Tanyan scored a touchdown, and then the week before against the Commanders, took another touchdown off the board on that scoop and score. When Douglas ran it in for the touchdown, there was a illegal contact on Stokes, even though, to me, the receiver initiated the contact. Just a bummer that it happened like that. But 2 weeks in a row now, points taken off the board because of a penalty. Not good. Not a good look. But last week was the first game that Aaron Jones had over 15 carries. I think he had 19. I heard he had 20, but I think it was 19 for over 147 yards he had. Dillon added a bunch more yards on his carries. They combined for 197. I think Rodgers had an 11-yard scramble, his only run of the day, to push them over to the 208 mark. But still, the Packers, it just sucks to get Jones all those carries, but they were so far behind that it was just too little, too late for them. But I think that's a formula for winning. They just have to stick to it. Doesn't sound like LaFleur wants to stick to it, though. I'm not really sure what's going on, but the struggles for the Lions have been on the back end. They do struggle stopping the run. Don't get me wrong, they struggle stopping the run, but they really have struggled stopping the pass, giving up big plays, lots of points, like I said. So to get Allen Lazard back, hopefully Christian Watson will be back from his concussion. He was a big part of the game plan against the Bills. And then when he got knocked out, they had to shuffle some things around. But LaFleur said it didn't really affect him too much, maybe a little bit, but not too bad. And then Samori Toure came in. He had the touchdown where he, broken play where he adjusted his route and was able to get open in the end zone. Crazy though, 7th rounder Samori Toure has his first receiving touchdown before Christian Watson, the 2nd round pick. Watson does have a touchdown on the end around, but he doesn't have one through the air. So definitely exciting to see Doubs get a score and Toure get a score. Hopefully Watson can get in the mix. Then you add Lazard and you have Watkins, and then, Amari Rodgers stepping up, making that big catch. And then we get Cobb back next week, hopefully against the Cowboys. So I'm excited to see this offense when it's got all its guys. And now that the rookies are kind of up to speed, it should be a much more efficient offense. Packers, though, offensive line issues seem to be getting fixed. That first quarter, Zach Tom at left guard was just getting pushed backwards. They were bull rushing him, and he is a little undersized for that guard spot. So, it was tough to see, but all in all, David Bakhtiari, when he is out there, he is elite. He is the best left tackle in football. You could argue Trent Williams still, but I'm all about Bakhtiari, obviously. And he was a stud. He shut down Von Miller, and the Packers will look to have him at left tackle. Hopefully Jenkins will be back from the foot injury at left guard. And then Josh Myers at center. John Runyan Jr. should keep that right guard spot. But it's so nice to see Zach Tom come in, play left tackle the week before against the Commanders and play well. Then come in and play left guard. This guy is versatile. It's a guy, it's never a bad thing to have a bunch of offensive linemen that can play all kinds of positions. So I'm excited that he got his chance. And maybe, if Runyan Jr. struggles, they can throw him in at right guard. But all in all, those 4 guys plus Yash at right tackle seems to be a very solid offensive line. Yash did get crushed down on that 4th and 1 run by Von Miller. He just pushed the whole line, crashed down real hard. If they would have done a quarterback keeper or something, or a toss, like a fake inside give and a toss, they would have had it wide open. Bad play call by LaFleur. They should have known, they kept running up the middle. They should have known that the defense was going to crash down on that. But all in all, the offensive line, just having the offensive line be able to block helps everything. And for these young guys, run blocking is so much easier than pass blocking. It's so much easier to push, just get off and go forward, or go left or right. Just push your guy, try to make a hole. So much easier to explode out of your stance and get the block forward than it is to try to hold your position backwards when a 300-pound guy is pushing on you. So obviously with these young guys, passing game is not going to be as effective as the run game, but once you get this offensive line going, it just helps everything. Like I said, helps receivers, it helps running backs, it helps the quarterback, helps the tight ends. Everybody kind of working in synchronized motion just to get the offense flowing really does help, and the offensive line is on its game. So I'm excited to see what they can do this week. Another game for, all those guys to work together. And after last week, at first, they gave up some sacks in the first half, and I think they gave up 1 in the second half. But all in all, that second half, the Packers showed me what they can do this year. They showed me what they can do on offense, running the ball, on defense. And if Rodgers didn't throw that pick, if they didn't go for it on that 4th and 1 and get stuffed, if they could have just kicked the field goal or got the first, the game would have looked a lot different. Picking off Josh Allen twice in the second half, just holding him to 13 of 25 completions. 13 out of 25 on his throws. That's just really good. And obviously, they still won. But to me, there was a lot that they could get out of that game and carry forward. LaFleur and Rodgers are like, oh, we don't believe in moral victories. And either do I. But there's a lot to build on. At least, there's things that you did well that you can carry forward with you. And, the Packers outscored a team in the second half for the first time. It was only 10-3. They forced 2 picks, the most they've forced all season in a game. 2. They got them against MVP hopeful Josh Allen. They couldn't pick off, Zach Wilson or they got Heineke for 1, Campbell did, but they couldn't get Wilson or Daniel Jones, or Kirk Cousins. They couldn't get those guys, but then they get the MVP hopeful Josh Allen for 2, and it's just it just looked a lot better on the back end. And we have to remember, we only picked up Douglas last year because Jair was hurt for most of the year. Those two guys haven't played a whole lot together. Jair played a few snaps in the playoffs, but otherwise, they haven't played, until week 1 this year. And you could see week 1, they were just all out of sorts. But now you can tell when these guys are on the same page what they can do. And it seemed like they kind of had Douglas as a spy towards the end. We shouldn't have to worry about spying Jared Goff at all, basically, compared to what we had to worry about Josh Allen. But Goff could still run, but I'm just excited how this defense matches up against the offense. Even though they are a high-powered offense, without Hockenson, it does really leave a lot of voids in the offense, and so the defense should be able to get after it. It is going to be a big deal if Devondre Campbell can't play just because he is all-pro, but his play has been down. I mean, Savage plays has been down. Clark's play has been down. Amos's play has been down. It just seems like, everybody's kind of collectively playing worse than they have in years past, or just last year, and that's not going to cut it. Savage looks afraid to tackle. I don't understand it, but right now with this Packers defense, with these guys kind of getting on the same page, I think they'll be able to get after Goff up front. If Sewell can't play at tackle, there's going to be some pressure on the quarterback, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary. Hopefully Kenny Clark can get going again. I don't know what's up with him. I haven't even heard his name in a game, I think, in the last 2 weeks or so, 3 weeks. But the biggest issue for the Packers, not their pass defense, but a lot of the reason why the pass defense has been so good and hasn't given up many yards is because they've given up so many yards on the ground. Teams haven't had to throw the ball because they're able to just run it down our throats and score on that. So the biggest issue is tackling. Amos has struggled tackling, taking bad angles. We saw it on the Devin Singletary, that first big run on that second drive by them. Stokes and Amos and Savage all taking weird angles. And, Singletary just kind of cut weaving, and then, they got him down eventually, but it was like a 25-yard run. And these guys need to figure out how to tackle. The big thing is Rudy Ford, the guy we brought in off the Jacksonville practice squad, kind of a special teamer, gunner guy. He's the highest graded safety for the Packers. Savage can't tackle. Maybe use Savage more in the slot role, kind of down in the box or something. I don't really know, but Ford, give him a chance. If Savage isn't willing to tackle, Josh Allen or get up there and make a hit in the hole, I don't know what he's doing out there because he's not breaking up passes in the back end. He's not really causing any issues in the running game. I mean, what is his role? What has he been doing well this season? And the answer is not much. So hopefully these guys can get it together. I don't know what they have to do. They don't do the tackling drills like they used to just because of the injury issues and all the NFLPA standards and all that stuff. But you can't have Josh Allen right in the hole and just let him get right past you. He can't scramble for 21 yards on a 3rd and 15. You can't allow that, especially when you have a guy like Savage who has blazing speed. And the end of 2020, he played so well. It looked like he was an all-pro, Pro Bowl level. And then last year, downhill, and now it's even farther downhill. So I don't know what's going on with him. It's probably a confidence thing now at this point just because he has struggled so much, and these guys normally have so much success, like high school, college, coming into the league. And his first year, I mean, he was at least near the ball and breaking up passes. A lot of times he wouldn't catch the interception. That was my biggest, down thing on him. But now he's not even close to picking it off, and, you can't even... He probably wouldn't catch it, but at least he'd be breaking up the pass, and he hasn't done that either. Stokes doesn't have an interception this year. Amos doesn't have an interception this year. Douglas just got his first one last week in Week 8. And Jair has 2 now, one against Fields and one against Josh Allen. Just not going to work. But another missed tackle that, I freaked out most about. I posted it right away. It actually had a lot of views because a lot of people were like, what the heck, And it was when Gary had a free run at Josh Allen. And yes, there was a flag on the play. It was offsides, I think, on Preston Smith on the other side. But Gary had a free rush right at Josh Allen. And as he comes up to him, he just pushed him, went past him, and Josh Allen just was like, what are you doing, dude? And just threw a laser to Gabriel Davis. Luckily, Davis's feet were out of bounds in the back of the end zone for an incompletion, but it would have been an easy sack for Gary. And maybe he thought there was a flag on the offense, so he didn't want to get a roughing call right there and kind of negate it. But it was a penalty on the defense, and it was a free play for the defense, so a sack would have been sweet right there. And the reason, I mean, I don't know, maybe he thought if he would have laid him out the way he was running so fast, it would have been a penalty no matter what he did. But you have to figure out how to get low, wrap up, make the tackle, and get him down. Can't just push a guy like Josh Allen, 6'5", he's like Big Ben. It doesn't make sense to try to do that. So, Gary, you got to get your sack. Another week without one. I think he's still got 6 now in 8 games, which is still pretty good. Still on pace for, double digits this year. But he hasn't had that sack a game like he started the season with. And hopefully he can get back on track this week against Jared Goff. Jared Goff is definitely a sackable quarterback and definitely an interceptable quarterback. But we will see. Their offense has been good. Goff has, I think, 12 touchdowns on the year. He averages over like 270 yards passing. Last week he had over 300 yards. This is an offense that can get going and can cause issues for the defense. So we'll see, though. But like I said, the biggest issue is that tackling. And if Devondre Campbell can't go, even though he's missed a lot of tackles this season, Isaiah McDuffie will be in there. He's mostly a special teamer guy, but he's a guy that just plays downhill. He plays with a lot of energy, and I like what I see out of him. He's getting his chance now, and maybe he'll really ball out, but hopefully Campbell can go. I just would prefer him out there. Allow McDuffie to still kind of develop a little bit, but we'll see. If we do some more dime sets, because McDuffie's in there, have Ford in there, like I was saying, move Savage around a little bit. Maybe they can get more out of these guys. Not really sure. Goody decided not to do anything at the trade deadline, and there was some talk about Savage maybe getting traded, but you're not going to trade a first-round pick for a fourth-round pick. You're going to just keep the guy and see if he can kind of snap out of this downward spell. So we'll see. But I mean, they got to shake up some stuff on that back end. If Amos hasn't played like he can play, Savage hasn't played like he can play, and if Rudy Ford is playing better than both of those guys, maybe he should get a chance. We'll see, but. Packers number 1 against the pass. Number 1 against the pass. Again, after last week, only 205 yards. They've given up under 200 yards passing per game, but they're 28th against the run. 28th. So, the fact that Amon-Ra St. Brown is so good, Jamal Williams had a big game last week, those are going to be the 2 guys to focus on. Can you shut down St. Brown with Jair Alexander and Douglas and Stokes and keep those other guys at bay? And can you get after Jamal Williams? He's not an easy guy to tackle. The Packers know him well. Anybody who's been on the Packers for over, I think, 3 years now, I think this is Williams' 2nd or 3rd year in Detroit. I think it's his 3rd year. So anybody that remembers Williams knows that, he's not an easy guy to tackle. He was really effective for the Packers on 3rd and 1 in 4th and 1 situations, and he's a guy that just brings a lot of energy. I always liked him personally. I know he's a fan favorite for a lot of Packer fans back in the day, and then obviously a fan favorite for the Lions now. But can the Packers get after those 2 guys? Without Hockenson, it leaves room for more focus on the guys that they do have. So we'll see. Seems like the Lions, if they do trade their 8th pick in the draft, they didn't even get a first rounder for him. I think they got like a 2nd and a 4th, something like that. I'm not really sure. I know they didn't get a first for him from the Vikings. Vikings have Irv Smith injured, and now with Hockenson, and then they'll have Irv Smith back, and then they have Jefferson. So Vikings are all in this year. I still don't think Kirk Cousins can win the big game. He wins these games during the season, and they lost to the Eagles, but otherwise they've won some big games, and they'll be tough. But for the Lions to give up their best player and trade him to a division rival, I just don't understand it. But whatever, I'm not their GM, so I'd still probably wouldn't have done that regardless. But, the Packers, they need more out of their defense. Like, their defensive line, Kenny Clark, like I keep saying, he hasn't stepped up in the last few weeks. Dean Lowry, half a sack this season, hasn't done much. I think Jaron Reed has 1 sack this season. There was a play where he kind of broke containment on Allen, and he's chasing Allen down the field. Well, you're not going to catch Allen from behind, big boy. So he needs to step up. Preston Smith, he played really well against the Commanders. He was really consistent, didn't have a lot of stats, but he was really getting after it. But we just need more out of him. And then, like I said, Amos and Savage and Stokes, these guys all need to play a great game on Sunday. If they don't, it could be a long day for this Packers defense. And even if, the Packers offense gets flowing, if the defense can't stop the Lions, like I said, the Lions put up 35 points per game at home. Packers haven't even scored over 27 points this season. They haven't scored over 30 at all this year because they haven't even hit 28. So, haven't had 4 touchdowns in a game all season for an offense that has the back-to-back MVP. Tough. It is tough. And, if the Packers fall to 3-6, it's pretty much all but over. They still have Dallas, Philly, the Rams, and the Titans, and then all 3 divisional opponents. That's a tough schedule ahead. If they can go into it 4-5 instead of 3-6, if they go 3-6, they basically have to win out. Otherwise, the season's over. If they can win this game, then they can afford to maybe lose to Philly or Dallas, but they're going to have to win some of these tough games. Dallas, they get at home. Philly's in Philly. The Dolphins, I think, is in Miami. So the Titans, they get at home, though. But that's a Thursday night game, and then they have that mini bye before Philly. So hopefully they can get these kinks out, and if they can figure out their identity, hopefully they can win. But, it's not going to be easy, especially if they lose this game. I hate to, call like the season, it's done if they lose. And I've been saying this is a must win since the Giants must win to the Jets, must win to the Commanders. It's like, okay, now this is really a must win this week against the Lions, especially a 1-6 team. You can't lose to a 1-6 team. The Giants, they look good. They're 6-2, and the Jets, even though they lost to the Patriots, they look a little better. The Commanders, they're on a little streak here now. They beat the Colts last week, so some of those losses don't look as bad as they would have if these teams were 1-6 or 2-6 or whatever. But if you lose to the Lions, it looks really, really bad. And the Packers pretty much have dominated the Lions over the years with Rodgers, but it is going to be a tough battle. It always is at Ford Field. They did beat us Week 18 last year. Rodgers only played the first half. Bakhtiari came in for, I think, those 20 snaps to see if that knee was right. It wasn't. After that, he didn't play the Niners game. But, and then Love came in. He actually scored the game taking the lead touchdown, and then the defense gave up the game-losing touchdown to the Detroit offense. So kind of a bummer, but hopefully the Packers can figure out how to win against this team, the Lions, and then win consistently after that. Just takes one to kind of get on a streak. I think these guys are kind of losing confidence, maybe in their own play, in the coaches, and just in the scheme. As you lose and you keep trying the same thing and getting the same result, guys want to change. Guys want something new. And Goody didn't do anything at the deadline. I think the Packers were definitely buyers. They weren't sellers. They were trying to improve their team, and they would have to give up more than they wanted to get a guy. And that's just not the Packers' MO. So they decided not to get anybody. But the keys to winning against the Lions are stopping the run, winning the turnover battle, running the ball themselves, and making plays downfield. Can they make 2 or 3, 4 big plays downfield, getting Lazard involved, maybe getting a deep one to Samori Toure? He's a speedster. He's 4.3 speed. He's 6'1". He can get downfield quick. Dobbs is 4'5". He's more of the Devontae mold. But Toure is a guy that can really stretch the field. And now that he's getting familiar with the offense, he's a guy that Rodgers wants out there. And after what he did last week, you can see Rodgers has confidence in him. And then you bring Lazard back, and this offense starts to look a little bit different when these young guys know what they're doing out there, And you saw Dobbs make some really great catches. The touchdown catch where, he's spinning all around, back and forth. It's really hard when you're looking this way to spin that way and then come back that way. It's so hard to relocate the ball, and he made an amazing catch. And then for Toure to, then the busted play to get in the end zone, his first NFL touchdown, super exciting for him. So Packers, they just need to do those things, and they should be able to get the victory on Sunday. It is a noon game. A lot of these guys like noon games. That even means that coming from Detroit, they can be home before Sunday night football starts, and a lot of them like that, obviously. Not really sure, what a lot of their schedules are, but if you play at noon, you get done by 3:30, you can be back home in Milwaukee or Green Bay or whatever by 7 o'clock, and that's something that I'm sure these guys are looking forward to, but it'll be a lot more exciting if they can win and get to 4-5. Rodgers has been great against the Lions. He's been absolutely great. We all remember the Hail Mary, the year that we needed to win that game. We basically had to win out, and Rodgers hit the Hail Mary at the end, pretty much shocked everybody. And hopefully it doesn't come down to that. Hopefully the Packers can just blow them out of the water. Go check out the Madden simulation for this week, Week 9, against the Lions. It was a really exciting one, actually, so go check that out. I always like doing those just to see where the Packers are at. But Rodgers, he just needs to play his game. Can't have an interception. I think he has 4 this year already. He threw 4 all of last year, and he's got 4 already halfway through the season this year. But, if they get Cobb back next week, they get Lazard back, Sammy Watkins, Watson, and then the other rookies step up. Now it's like, okay, now who's the best 3 to put out there in the 3 wide receiver sets? I mean, you have guys that have different skill sets, and Sammy Watkins just can't get open, though. So hopefully Lazard can come back and be himself, and then these young guys play like they have. That really strong catch by Romeo Doubs, where he just got up there and used his hands right in front of the defender. That's what I want to see from him. And then Amari Rodgers had a nice catch streaking down the sidelines too. That was really impressive. So, you start figuring out with these young receivers and the veteran receivers, and then adding the running game with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones should be able to do enough on offense to win this game. And I think the defense can get after Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions offense. So, been saying this for the last 3 weeks. This is a must win. It's a must win. And, it comes down to just executing, trusting in each other, and having a good game plan. So that's up to LaFleur and those guys. I'm excited to see what they can do. Packers have to win this game. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Go Pack, go. They have to get this win. They looked like they were going to get blown out against the Bills, and that second half they bounced back. So to carry that momentum over to this week and try and get this W, and then focus on the Cowboys. Don't even think about McCarthy coming home or coming back to Green Bay yet. Just focus on the Lions. 1-0 this week. That's all you have to do is go 1-0 this week, and then worry about next week. All right, guys. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and go Packers, go. Peace out. See you guys next time.